Hi everyone, this is Ashley with Marsh Flower Studio. I sound a little different today. In this video, I am going to show you guys how I make this little Christmas tree. So you'll need your green for your tree, whatever color green you like best. I have some metallic thread red, just because I like that little bit of shimmer in there for my, ornaments on my tree. I've also used this cream that has the gold metallic thread in it for my star and for this little kind of sash design that's on the sides here. So you get a little bit of sparkle poking through in some of those areas and sparkle on the red as well. And if you have a green that has the metallic sparkle, by all means, if you want to go for full glitter, do it. And we'll also need a little bit of brown for the trunk at the bottom. Okay, so to get started for this little guy, I'll move this out of the way. And this green that I'm using is called I'm Jealous. So green with envy, I guess. And I've got my stuffing stick, my stitch marker, and my yarn needle. I am using a 4mm hook for the majority of this tree, and then I use a 3.5mm for the star, because I wanted it to try to be kind of as small as possible without doing just my little points off of a magic circle. So I wanted to make sure it was still nice and sturdy, nice and tight. So I used the 3.5 for just the star, but we'll get to that. All right. And he stands up. Okay, so we're going to start with our magic circle and our 6 single crochets in our magic circle. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. We'll pull that tight. And then our second row is going to be 6 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. In our next row, we're going to have our 6 increases. So we'll have 1 and 2, 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7 and 8, 9 and 10, 11 and 12. I pulled apart a different tree earlier, so I've got this wad of green kind of hanging out. All right, in our next row, we're going to have 12 single crochets, and this is creating that kind of cone shape instead of just being a flat disc. So there's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. And I'm going to pull this a little bit tighter up top, but I'm going to use that hole to sew the star on later. So I don't want to pull it so tight that I'm not going to be able to get my yarn needle through there. All right, for our next row, we're going to do our increase and single crochet. So we take this row out to 18, stitches total. So there's 1 and 2, and then 3, 4 and 5, and then 6, 7 and 8, and then 9, 10 and 11, and then 12, 13 and 14, and then 15, 16 and 17, and then 18. All right, so our next row, this is an optional thing you can do. We're doing 18 single crochets. If you would like to kind of leave yourself this little row to create this band, then you're going to do back loop only for this row. And you'll do back loop only for this row as well. But if you want to leave those stitches kind of sticking out where they're nice and easy to see and kind of sew around, we're going to do back loop only. If you don't want those kind of sticking out, then just do 18 single crochets. All right, so I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. All right. So next we're going to have an increase row. So we're going to do an increase and then 2 single crochets. So that'll take us to 24. So there's 1 and 2, and then 3, 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 and 22, and then 23, 24. All right, so we're going to do another row of 24 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24. All right. For our next row, we're going to have our 3 single crochets and then an increase. So this will take us out to 30 total. So 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 and 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Okay. So our next row is going to be another back loop only row. If you want to have this kind of raised edge here, you can see where that front loop is still kind of just sticking out here. And there are other options that you can do with the raised edge from that front loop or from the back loop only into those front loops. You can surface crochet into them with any color you like. You can do your single crochets, you can do half doubles. If you want to scale this and make it a little larger, you're just going to continue the pattern of your increase and then your single crochet row, and just make sure that you stagger your back loop only rows so that they kind of evenly space out down your tree. We're going to do 30 back loop only. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, and 30. Okay, so that is kind of the end for the side of your tree. All right, for our next step, we're going to do back loop only again. We're going to do a single crochet and then a decrease, and you'll end up with 20 stitches at the end of the row. So, oops, back loop only. So back loop, single crochet, back loop, decrease. There's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and I actually was going to talk about this for a second before I started this row, and then I forgot. I've had some questions about how I do my decreases, and it depends on where the decreases are going. So for this particular decrease, because I'm doing them in the back loop, I am going under the back loop of that next stitch, yarning over and pulling it through, and then I'm going through the back loop of the next stitch over, yarning over and pulling it through. So I've got 3 loops on my hook to yarn over and pull through. That is not the only way that you can decrease, okay? If you have other ways that you prefer to decrease, do those, all right? This is not a, you have to do these stitches exactly the same way I do for this to turn out right. Your increases, your decreases, do them how you're most comfortable doing them, and it will be okay, all right? So for our next row, we are doing 10 decreases, and because this is not a back loop only row, I'm going to be doing the front loop, and I'm not yarning over, and then I'm going to immediately jump to that second stitch and go into the front loop of that one as well. And then I'll yarn over and pull through both. And typically I will yarn over and pull through both of these. However, whoops, a friend of mine recently told me to just, when I yarn over and I'm underneath both of those front loops, to just pull that loop all the way through. And I'll show you some more of those. Okay. So front loop, yarn over, pull under those 2 front loops and through the loop that was on your hook. So front loop, yarn over, pull through both of the front loops and through the loop that was on your hook. So front, through both of those loops and through the loop that was on your hook. And because you're doing 10 decreases in this row, you should have 10 stitches when you are finished with this row. Got one more here. Okay. So we've got our nice little tree, and then the way that we do our decreases, it makes this bottom kind of flatten off for us without us having to force it. So my starter tail is going to get tucked inside. I'm going to slip stitch into the next stitch here, and then I'm going to stick my hook under the next stitch, and I'm going to pull up my brown. So we'll grab our brown with our hook, pull that all the way through like a slip stitch. We'll cut our green off here, get that out of the way. I like to tie these little tails together in just a nice little simple slip knot, or not slip knot, square knot. And then with our brown, we're going to do 20 single crochets, or 2 rows of 10. 2, 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. All right. So now that we have the sides of our trunk done, we need to stuff this guy. So I'm going to pull that loose a little bit. This other green tail is going to get stuck down inside there. And you want to make sure that you have enough stuffing inside your tree for it to keep its shape. But obviously you don't want so much that it shows through in between your stitches. And you also don't want so much that it starts to pooch out the bottom of your tree. We want to try to keep this nice and flat underneath. Okay, so I'm just going to put a little bit more for this stump. Make sure our stump doesn't go flat. And then we're going to finish this up with 5 decreases that are back loop only. Okay, so again, I'm going back loop, yarning over and pulling through, back loop, yarning over and pulling through, and then yarning over and pulling through all 3. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right, so I'm going to slip stitch into that next stitch there. Cut our yarn off. And then, like most things that we work this way, we need to kind of sew this little hole shut here. So I'm going to go from the outside to the inside under that front loop only, all the way around. So pull that nice and tight. And then I'm going to use this other tail where I started my brown to kind of tie that off in a little knot there. And then we'll stick these brown tails up through the tree. Got a nice little tree trunk there for our tree to sit on. So we'll cut this off. And you can decorate it however you would like, as far as kind of trimming your tree with any little colorful ornaments. I will show you how to do the star really quick. So I'm going to do my magic circle, and I am using my 3.5 millimeter just to make it a little bit tighter. So I'm going to do 5 single crochets in the magic circle. 3, 4, 5. And then we're going to slip stitch into that next stitch, our very first stitch. So we'll slip stitch there, and then we're going to chain 2, and then we will slip stitch into that first chain, and then we'll move over to the next stitch on our magic circle. So slip stitch there, 1, 2, slip stitch back into that first chain, and then slip stitch back into our magic circle single crochets. So again, 1, 2, slip stitch back into the first chain, slip stitch into the next magic circle, single crochet, and then 1, 2. So we want to have 5 points on our little star here. So one more. Slip stitch that down. Trim this off. I'm going to pull this to the back with my hook just because it's easy. And then I will kind of find where my magic circle is up here, and I'll use that to sew this star onto my tree. So it'll be right up there like that. So star gets attached. Any little ornaments, you know, lights, sashes that you want to add, throw them on there, decorate it up, and you have some cute little trees that you can use as ornaments or gifts if you have, you know, bosses, assistants, teachers. You might even want to give one to your mail person, just to spread a little bit of cheer. Everybody loves getting little surprise gifts from time to time, so brighten someone's day. Hit that thumbs up button if you like the little tree design and you think it was pretty easy to follow. If you have not subscribed already, make sure that you subscribe so you can see all of the video notifications as those come out. Make sure that you go back and check all of the videos that have already been posted. There are always great things that you may have missed, and most all of them are nice, small, quick little projects that are pretty easy to make. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.